Hello everyone! So it's time for some more of the wicked Robber Hotzenplotz and Preußler Zuckerman. An adventure in the dark. Kasper spent the rest of the day peeling potatoes in the kitchen of Zuckerman's castle. The wicked magician just couldn't have enough of those potatoes. The first potatoes he had not had to peel for himself. At dinner time he devoured 7 helpings of mashed potatoes, and for supper he ate 6½ dozen potato dumplings with onion sauce. No wonder he was in a very good mood that evening. At last he got up from the table and clapped Kasper on the shoulder in a friendly way. "That will do for today," he said. "Now I'll show you where you sleep. Follow me, Seppel." Kasper followed the great magician Preußler Zuckerman across the hall into a small room where there was an empty bedstead and a washstand. "This is your bedroom, Seppel," said the magician. "You will sleep here." "Here? On the empty bedstead?" asked Kasper. "Just wait a minute," said Preußler Zuckerman. He snapped his fingers. A thick straw mattress appeared on the iron bedstead. How it had come there, Kasper couldn't say. Zuckerman snapped his fingers a second time, a third time, and a fourth time. Now the bed had a sheet, a pillow, and a quilt too. "There, that will do," said the great magician. "I'm going to bed now. Good night, Seppel." "Good night, great magician Preußler Zuckerman." Zuckerman went away. His bedroom was in the turret of the castle, 5 floors up. However, Kasper's room, like the kitchen, was on the ground floor. When he looked out of the window, he could see the kitchen garden. Behind the kitchen garden lay the wood. And the window? The window was not barred, and it opened from inside. "Not so bad," thought Kasper. "It looks as though the great magician will be peeling his own potatoes again from tomorrow." Kasper waited until it was quite dark outside. He wanted to set his friend Seppel free as soon as possible after his escape. He would soon think how. The first thing was to get away from the castle. Was Preußler Zuckerman asleep yet? Kasper crept cautiously out of the window into the kitchen garden. He looked up at the castle. There were no lights. Nothing was stirring. Good. The garden fence was not particularly high, yet when Kasper tried to climb it, a surprising thing happened. Someone seized his coat and his collar from behind and flung him back. Kasper landed on his bottom rather hard. Who had grabbed him? Was it the wicked magician Preußler Zuckerman in person? Kasper looked anxiously around. But there was no one at all in the kitchen garden. "It must have been a trick," thought Kasper. "I'll have another shot. I'll try a different place this time." No sooner said than done. Kasper picked himself up and walked a few paces backwards. Then he took a run at the garden fence. He meant to swing himself over, but he failed again. This time someone collared him and hurled him back so hard that he plumped on the ground like a sack of flour. For a few minutes Kasper lay where he had fallen, in the middle of Preußler Zuckerman's parsley bed. He strained his ears, but there was nothing moving. "Psst," said Kasper. "Is there anybody there?" No answer. "If there's anybody there, speak up." Everything was perfectly quiet. There was no sound but the rustle of leaves on the other side of the fence. "I must have imagined it," thought Kasper. "I'll have a third try. I don't feel much like climbing over the fence now. I'll creep under it." Kasper crawled along the fence on hands and knees, looking for a gap. There was a loose board here. He could push it aside. The gap was big enough to let him through. Good, thought Kasper. He was going to crawl under the fence, but his luck was still out. Someone grabbed his feet and roughly dragged him away. There was more to come. Suddenly there was a loud bang, and Kasper had his ears boxed so hard that he cried out in dismay. His yell awakened the great magician Preußler Zuckerman. Preußler Zuckerman put the light on and peered out of his bedroom window on the 5th floor. He was wearing a nightcap. "Ho, ho, ho!" he cried. "What's this I hear? What's this I see? Seppel trying to escape? Well, 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 what a silly thing to do. Seppel, You'll never be able to escape from my enchanted castle. If you want to leave, either you need my permission, and I'll never give it to you, or you'll get exactly what you got just now. Go to bed, Seppel, and kindly don't disturb my beauty sleep any more, or else. A flash of lightning sizzled down and darted into the ground inches away from Caspel's toes. Caspel was horribly frightened. In the castle turret, 5 floors up, the great magician Petrozilius Zuckerman slammed the window shut with a mocking laugh. What would you expect from a wicked magician like that? As stupid as possible. Next morning, Caspel had to cook the magician a great cauldron full of potatoes. Zuckerman never once laid down his spoon until the cauldron was empty. Then he wiped his mouth contentedly with the corner of his magic robe. "What about me?" asked Caspel, disappointed. He had hoped that Zuckerman would leave him a few potatoes. "Don't worry, my good fellow." The magician snapped his fingers. A loaf of bread, some butter, and a hunk of cheese appeared by magic. "That's for you, Seppel," he said, "but don't start eating yet. I've got something to say to you." He cleared his throat. "I shall have to leave you on your own today," he began. "I'm going to see another magician in Buxtehude. I shan't be back till late in the evening. If you feel hungry, go to the larder and take what you want. The rest of the time you're to work. Now, listen carefully. This is what I want you to do. First, peel 6 buckets full of potatoes and cut them into small pieces for supper. Second, saw up 3 loads of wood, split the logs and stack them. Third, scrub the kitchen floor. Fourth, dig the empty beds of earth in the kitchen garden. Repeat that." "Just as you say, great magician Spectrobilius Zigglespawn," said Caspel. He had decided to behave as stupidly as possible in the future. He wanted to infuriate Zuckerman. Perhaps the magician would get angry enough to kick Caspel out of the castle. So now Caspel looked as though if he were racking his brains. He rolled his eyes, scratched his head. Petrozilius Zuckerman watched him for some time. Then he lost his patience. Come along, he cried. "Can't you see I'm in a hurry? Open your mouth and tell me what you're supposed to do." "What am I to do?" said Caspel. "I must, oh, dear me, whatever was it now? I had it on the tip of my tongue a moment ago. Oh, but now, wait a minute. I think I've got it." Caspel pushed Seppel's hat back on his head. "Now, first, saw up 6 buckets full of potatoes, split them and stack them. Second, scrub 3 loads of wood. Third, peel the kitchen floor and cut it into small pieces for supper. Fourth—" "Shut up!" cried the great magician, Petrozilius Zuckerman. "Stop talking rubbish! Stop it at once!" Caspel looked very surprised. "Stop?" he asked. "Why?" "You're muddling everything up. You've got it all wrong. Now start again, at the beginning." "Certainly, great magician Reprosilius Ficklespun. First, dig up 6 buckets full of potatoes. Second, saw up the kitchen floor, split it and stack it. Third, scrub the empty beds of earth in the kitchen garden. Fourth—" "Oh, now what was the fourth?" "Nonsense!" shouted Petrozilius Zuckerman. "Utter nonsense!" "Why?" asked Caspel. "Why? Because you're stupid, that's why." Petrozilius Zuckerman tapped his forehead. "Thick as a brick, that's what your trouble. You can't even remember the simplest instructions. You'll drive me mad, stark raving mad." The great magician stamped his foot in a rage. "This is it," thought Caspel. "Now he'll throw me out." But no, the great magician Zuckerman did not throw him out. He needed him. He snapped his fingers, and a bottle full of a dark liquid appeared by magic. A drink from the bottle calmed him down. "You're a blockhead, Seppel," he said. Well, it may be maddening in some ways, but there's no denying it has its advantages. Now, if you peel 6 buckets full of potatoes by this evening, that will do. Peel them and cut them into small pieces. Understand? I want fried potatoes for supper. You needn't do the rest of the work. You're too stupid. There. And now I must hurry, or my friend in Buxtehude will think I've forgotten him. The great magician, Petrozilius Zuckerman, hurried up to the platform on the top of the castle turret. He spread his flowing magic robe on the floor. It was embroidered with red and yellow magic symbols. He sat down in the middle of the robe and recited a spell. The robe flew up in the air with him and carried him to Buxtehude. As for Caspar, when he had finished his bread and cheese, he set to work. He sat in the castle kitchen, peeling potatoes and thinking things over. Most of all, he thought about Seppel. Before they left the cave yesterday, the robber Hotzenplotz had chained Seppel to the wall by his left foot. He was left in the darkest corner of the cave, lying between the barrel of gunpowder and the barrel of pepper. Was he still there, chained up, lying on the cold stone floor? Old Hotzenplotz might at least have given him a blanket or a bit of straw, thought Caspar. The more Caspar thought about it, the more he longed to know what had been happening to Seppel in the robber's cave. And we'll have to find out next time what's happened to poor Seppel. See you next time. Bye!